Are you singing? Come on, let's go for a run.
Well, good evening, everyone. Glad to see everybody here tonight on our Wednesday night Bible study. Um, Glad the weather's changed. It's a lot better this week than it has been in the last few weeks, but next week it's coming back. Hopefully not as bad. I seen the extended forecast. It's going to be in the 30s, and they're giving for some snow, but hopefully it won't be the teens and the single digits. That's when it hurts. I'm going to start off the evening with some announcements. Friday night, and I know I've told you guys this, but it's this Friday, Night to Shine. It is here. It's not coming. It's already here. And everybody, if you can, any volunteers or anyone that's going to help, what time is it going to be tomorrow? 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock in the morning at the YMCA. And then if you, everyone has to be there Friday at 3:30, 4 o'clock, I think. And hopefully we'll be ready for sure. I'm going to do my best to try to be there tomorrow evening and then be there as early as I can Friday. But we have that, and it is coming quickly. And well, like I said, it's here. So on February the 23rd, Rick Mathene is going to be here, and he's going to do his presentation on the Christian Acres camp. He'll do that on Sunday school hour, and then he'll do the message at 11 for our morning message also. March the 1st, the ladies' Bible study will start back at 10 a.m. here at the church, and it's on the Book of Ruth. And if you want to attend and you want a book, please let Laura know, and she'll get you. We'll make sure you get a book. March the 7th through the 8th is the Ignites Men Conference in Lynchburg. Bible Bowl competition is it's underway. I think they had their first practice was Tuesday. Caden's in it, so I brought him up here, and I think they had their first practice Tuesday at 6. And I think they practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And the first competition will be March the 8th. It's on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. The teams will be here at the church, and they'll be doing it virtually. They have 3 meets, and they'll be doing all of them virtually here at the church. Now, the beginners, which Brother Jason and Tiffany will be with them, they're traveling to Crossroads Christian Church in Gray, Tennessee, to do their competition. And that's a wonderful competition. My daughter did it. My son did it. Seth was doing it before he was old enough. He wasn't supposed to be doing it because he was too little. I think you had to be in the 3rd or 4th grade, and he was in 2nd grade. So, and he done great. He did it all the way through. But it's a great program for the youth for sure. And then the April the 5th is 2025's Ladies' Day at Macedonia Church of Christ, and that's their annual meeting that they do. The Super Bowl carrying is the donations are out there. Sister Rebecca was out there looking at them, and I know Connie and Helen brought some stuff in this evening. It's going to be going on till Sunday because the Super Bowl will be Sunday. But if you have any more donations, any more canned foods, any more monetary donations, if you write a check, please write it out to the Richlands or to the Good Samaritan Food Pantry. And if you have any donations, please donate them. Just bring them and set them right out here at the connection desk. And I think Sunday evening maybe Sunday after church is when they're going to take it to the pantry. I think that's what she said. And anybody interested in Bible Bowl, just see Jeannie. I meant to say that. See Jeannie or Arlene Dales. Jeannie Daniels or Arlene Dales, and they'll put you in the right category. They do it by age. So we will get started with our song service. And listen, if I'm up here and I've messed up something, because I'm trying to keep up with this too, like I did on the Bible verses and I had a prayer request, somebody say, hey, I didn't notice that till I looked and I seen it and I went, oh my goodness, y'all been trying to look at the Bible verses through the prayer request. If a screen's not right, tell me, please. You're not going to bother me at all, trust me. Not at all. Okay, on our first song, we're going to be singing 877, Won't It Be Wonderful There, and we're going to sing verses 1 and 3. Okay, our next song is going to be 564, I Must Tell Jesus. And we're going to sing verses 1 and 3 on this song also. 1 and 3. Okay, for our prayer song tonight, we're going to sing 853, When We All Get to Heaven. 853 for our prayer song, and if you have any prayer additions, just pass them to the inside aisle, and Brother Larry will bring them up. 853, verses 1 and 3. Okay, for our invitation hymn, it'll be 915, Trust and Obey. 915. Okay, the Shirley Silcox family. Kristen Perkins. Darlene Van Dyke. Wasn't feeling well Sunday. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'm glad she's feeling better, for sure. Jerry Accord, diagnosed with cancer. Jamie and David Kimberly, both had COVID and the flu. The family of Lusha Cochran. Wanda Depp, having health problems and is in Lynchburg, Virginia. Hermas Ball had back surgery Monday. The family of Gordon Russ. Betty Smith, she had a stroke and was flying to Kingsport. And that's Sister Donna Fletcher's mother. Donna Fletcher. She got back. She's back at Heritage Hall today. But that's Sister Donna that sings some specials and plays the piano for us some. The family of Mary Lee. Caitlin Bartley, stomach virus. Bo Bartley, stomach virus. And Becky Matney Bartley, or Bartley's strep. James Patterson, having heart issues and had a pacemaker installed. Sister Ada, Stacy wasn't feeling well Sunday. I hope she's feeling better. The family of Martha Griffey, that's Brother Matt's mother. The funeral was today. So please keep all them in your prayers. The plane crash victims also that was in that plane crash, I think it was a week ago today. Wayne Cook was traveling for surgery to remove part of his lung. I haven't heard an update from Tiffany on any of that. Tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah, I know she's having a really hard time trying to be in two places. I'm sure it probably would be easier, you know. The Tennessee Smith family, the Betty Hankins family, Jeremy Bumgardner recovering from an illness. Doug Tatum had a fall and surgery. Ann Dye and Tony Emmerich. And Brother Chan Smith, he had a MRI scheduled for, I think it was that Sunday? And he got a really good report, praise the Lord, that the cancer that he had removed hadn't grown and everything looked as well as it could. So that was great for him. And Brother Chan he helps with the ramps. He goes to, it's Cedar Bluff Community, right? He goes to Cedar Bluff Community Church, but he helps us with the ramps. I think there's one more, a couple that come sometimes that help build the ramps that we build for the needy. And Chan will be there tomorrow night, or Friday night. He works the front, I mean, gosh, you can't, his service is unreal. He sure services the Lord very well. Okay, do we have any additions that we need to add to the program? Yeah. What was his name? Alan Matton. He had 8 stents this morning. It's Brother Mike's longtime friend from Hurley. Okay, anybody else? Let me, who, Matt Sloan? Uh-huh. Okay. see anybody on Facebook. So, Brother Sam, would you pray for the prayer list, please?
Dear God, we thank you for today. Thank you for another opportunity, Lord, to finish together in your house, to learn another portion of the word. And we thank you, Lord, for our brother who works so hard and studies and has such wonderful lessons. And Lord, I pray that you be with us in the audience and ask you to open our ears and open our hearts, Lord, and accept these words and help us. Help us to become stronger in your word and your word. And Lord, I pray that you bring all these we mentioned tonight. So many needs, so many illnesses. And Lord, not only the ones that sick and afflicted, but the caregivers, the doctors and the nurses, our first responders that have to deal with all of these illnesses as well. And Lord, I pray that you bless them, bless their families, be with them military. I pray that you continue to be with our country. Let us all in God, their nation. Again, forgive us, Lord, if there was any wrong short of your glory. And give us thank you for giving us another wonderful day. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Thank you, brother. Okay, we are going to get back into our book of Job. And see if I can fix that right now before I forget this time. But we're going to see tonight is going to be the last time we hear from Job until chapter 35. It's going to be the last time we hear from him. He is going to lay everything out to the Lord to see if he can either have his vindication or his death. It's what he's asking for. It's often easy to, I've worked on this word all day. It's often easy to sentimentalize the past to make it seem more pleasant and sweeter than it really was at the time. But before the trials came upon Job, he really did live an extraordinary life. He was blessed in every single facet of his life. He experienced the highest of highs, and now he's facing heartbreak and the lowest of lows. At this point, Job initiates a request to God for future justice. Charles Dickens once wrote a gripping tale entitled The Haunted Man, which is about a chemist who was filled with unhappy memories. In the story, a phantom appears, and the chemist asks him to take away his memory. The phantom grants the request, and the memory of the chemist is destroyed. From that moment on, not only did the chemist not have any memory, but he had the power to strip others of their memories as well. But the gift of an erased memory was not what he expected. It creates a huge sense of disappointment, so great that the chemist was in misery, and he begged the phantom to come back and restore his memory. At the end of the story, the man was so grateful that he prayed this prayer: "Oh God, keep my memory green." As we return to the study of Job, we find out him buying up his memories of his former life when he was experiencing the blessings of God. There's something very powerful about our memories, and remembering is a special priority in the Old Testament. God was continually encouraging his people to remember the things that he had done for them. In the book of Deuteronomy alone, the word remember is found 14 times. Deuteronomy 8:2 displays this importance that it is given to memory. And you shall remember that the Lord your God led you all the way these 40 years into the wilderness to humble you, test you, to know what was in your heart, whether you wanted to keep his commandments or not. David also understood the power of memory. In Psalms 103:2, bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not all his benefits. Memory is a gift of God. It is good, and it is one of the things that can be helpful to us as we're going through difficult times, to remember what God has done for us in the past. However, if we're not careful, we can take a good thing that God has given us and misuse it. We need to be careful that our memories are an encouragement for us to go forward, not an anchor to hold us back. Warren Wiersbe puts it this way: if we try to duplicate today what we experienced yesterday, we find ourselves in a rut that robs us of tomorrow. In chapter 29, Job is looking back at the time in his life when things were good. He sees things that he sees things as they were before he lost his possessions, before he lost his health, and before he lost his family. It's interesting to note that he begins with his relationship with God. Job begins reminiscing in Job 29, verses 2 through 4, by saying, "Oh, that I were as in months past, as in days when God watched over me, when his lamp shone upon my head, and when by his light I walked through darkness, just as I was in the days of my prime, when the friendly counsel of God was over my tent." When things are not going well, it's easy to reflect back to the good times, when things were better. But longing for the good old days never changed the current situation. In fact, someone has defined the good old days as a combination of a bad memory and good imagination. But some of Job's memories were good. His good old days were real. He enjoyed some of the blessed moments earlier in his life. He remembers the time when God watched over him and shared intimate friendship with him. Then the light of God was on him, and he was in the center of God's blessing. Even Satan realized that God had put a hedge around Job and had blessed him abundantly. He was the wealthiest, the wisest man in the East. Job is going back in his mind to reflect upon the days he enjoyed before he became a pawn in a contest between Satan and God. And he sounds very contemporary, like today, when an athlete will say that he longs for the days when he was in his prime. But in the end, it is futile for us to look back with regret. Instead, we need to look with faith forward, with rejoicing. Then in verses 5 and 6, Job remembers the time when he had a family, when the Almighty was yet with me, when my children were around me, when my steps were bathed with cream, and the rock poured out rivers of oil for me. Job was the father of 7 sons, 3 daughters, and they were a very close family. They had an unusual and special love for each other. We recall in the first couple of chapters of Job that we were told that Job would offer a sacrifice to God for each of his 10 children individually. This was a family that was deeply loved each other. And now Job is sitting on an ash heap in pain, isolation, and we can't blame him for letting his mind wander back to those days when he was at home with his children. Job then describes the respect that he once commanded. And that's in verse 7, 29, 7 through 9. When I went out to the gate by the city, when I took my seat in the open square, the young men saw me and hid. The aged rose and stood. The princes refrained from talking and put their hands over their mouth. Look at these words. Job is saying that the young men had so much respect for him that when they saw him coming, they would get out of his way. When Job went to the city gates, which is where the leaders met, the elders, the princes, they all stood when he walked in. In addition, they would not utter a word because of the great respect that they had for this good man. They literally put their hands over their mouth lest they should utter a word. They simply stood in awe of him. People who knew me spoke well of me. My reputation went ahead of me. That is the kind of respect that Job's friends and society in general had for him in the good old days. But in verse 12, Job remembers, 29:12, Job remembers how he helped out those around him, saying, I delivered the poor who cried out, the fatherless, and the ones who had no helper. Job was a man of great wealth, but he used his wealth to help others. He had compassion for the poor. He took in fatherless children. He ministered to the dying. He helped the widows. He defended those who could not defend themselves. He helped the handicapped. He became the eyes for the blind and the feet for the lame. He was proactive in searching out evil and injustice and making the wrong things right. Job gives us a sense in verses 18 through 20. Job gives us a sense of how he looked at his own life back then. Then I say, I shall die in my nest and multiply my days as the sand. My root is spread out into the waters. The dew lies all night on my branch. My glory is fresh within me, and my bow is renewed in my hand. Job had a good world in front of him, a good life. When he looks back at those days before his suffering began, he remembers how confident he was about his own future. At that time, he thought that he was set for life. He believed that he would die as an old man in his nest with his children and grandchildren surrounding him. It is evident that Job believed that he would live life to the fullest and then die in peace and glory. He remembers what time that was like before the structures of his life had shattered in an instant. Now in verses 21 through 25, or 21 and 22, Job finally remembers when he was famous. Men listened to me and waited and kept silent for my counsel. After my words, they did not speak again. My speech settled on them as dew. When Job was in his prime, he was so respected and loved. His words were taken seriously by everyone who heard them. When he spoke, no one else responded because his wisdom was so complete. There was nothing to say after Job offered his insight. He was the guru of his day, and everyone leaned forward to hear his words. If Job gave you a reference, you could get a job anywhere. If you needed help with a difficult decision, Job was the man to talk to. If you were mourning or suffering, Job's words of comfort would give you strength and encouragement needed to carry on. Job's life back then was pretty incredible, but now it's all gone. Job is now going to travel from the delight of his past into the dismay and disappointment of his present. In chapter 30 is the exercise in reversing out chapter 29. Job has remembered what it was like in his prime before the chaos and calamity of his life. Now he's going to be honest and reflect upon his life as he's experiencing it in the present. We can almost hear him groan as he speaks the first words in chapter 30. And some have made this observation that this is the place where Job begins to become whole, when he is finally able to acknowledge the reality of his situation. Hope and healing begin to return. We are going to outline what Job sees as he looks at his life in the aftermath of God's dealing with him. 3 times he uses the word now, and that's in verses 1, 9, and 16, to place his thoughts where they belong in his difficult and discouraging present life. Job 30, verse 1 says, "But now they mock me, younger men than I, whose fathers I disdained, put with the dogs of my flock." In chapter 29, Job remembers when young men gave him so much respect that they would literally scatter at the sight of him. Now the very same young men are openly mocking him and spitting in his face. And to make matters worse, some of these young men were the sons of those that were so wicked and worthless that Job compared them to donkeys wandering in the desert. These men that Job had fired because they were so sorry workers and even worse people, and their sons even more wicked than their fathers. These are the very people who are now berating Job, taunting him, spitting in his face. He now has to stand in the world. He has no standing in the world. For Job, there is no end in sight to his troubles. He has not experienced one moment of relief since his world has fell apart. Job offers a graphic description of his physical state in verse 17, 30:17. "My bones are pierced in me at night, and my galling pains take no rest." Job's description sounds like a cancer patient. His body is continually in a state of agony. And remember that in the addition to the sharp pains he's experiencing, his body is covered with boils. And Job did not have any benefit of pain medication that we take granted for today. There was nothing available to dull the pain. He felt the full force of each ache fully. However, there is even worse things than physical pain. 30, 20, and 21. Job is speaking to God when he says, "I cry out to you, but you do not answer me. I stand up, and you regard me, but you have become cruel to me. With the strength of your hand, you oppose me." Job has lost it all. He knows that the only God can save him and restore him, but God is eerily silent toward Job. Thus Job is left with no help. He has no help on earth, and he feels like he has no help in heaven either. He feels completely abandoned. Since Job's health is gone, and his help is gone, and his hope is gone too, he says in verse 26, 30:26, "But when I looked for good, evil came to me. And when I waited for light, then came darkness." He goes on in this passage to talk about the fact that he is at his very end of himself. If Job thought there was no hope in comfort or thought there was hope in the comfort of his friends, that hope was all gone. He reasons that his true friends don't hurt one. He reasons that true friends don't hurt the one who is suffering. But that is exactly what they have done to him. They have used his suffering to inflict even more suffering upon him. If Job thought that he would be rewarded because he has shown mercy to others, that hope was also dashed. Instead of good, he got evil. Instead of light, he got darkness. If he thought there was hope in the assembly, that was also gone as well. He stood up and cried for help, and no one responded. His singing turned to sorrow. His music turned to mourning. Now, if we hadn't gone through chapter 29 and remembered all that Job was, we would feel bad for Job. But we wouldn't feel nearly as bad as we do with the perspective in hand. For Job had come from a perfect life to the very bottom of humanity. The devastation and dismiss of his tranquil life is without parallel. So what will Job do? He's going to lay it all out one more time. Except for a small paragraph at the end of the story in chapter 31. This contains the last word that Job says in this book. He is going to offer his final defense. He's going to present his case to God, point by point. He's going to put himself under oath and challenge God to prove him wrong. His defense rests on 16, if I have, statements that are found in chapter 31. In each one of these statements, Job challenges God to either condemn him or vindicate him. This is a pretty courageous move by Job. He's inviting God into the universe, or the God of the He is inviting the God of the universe to examine his heart in a plea for justice. If he's going to die, Job wants to die with the knowledge that at least God believes in him. He asks for justice in 7 key areas of his life. Job begins his first statement in 31:1. I have made a covenant with my eyes, while they should look upon a young woman. Job's friends had accused him of being immoral, impure, but Job states before God that he had made a covenant with his eyes not to look lustfully at a woman. Jesus voiced a similar view in Matthew 5:28. But Job knew that Jesus knew the temptation of sin begins with the eyes. Thus Job made an oath not to look at a woman in a sinful or degrading way. Job 31:1 is a great little verse to write down in the front of your Bible to review often. In these days of incredible temptation through the internet, there are sources of corruption to your mind, can make you impure and unlimited, making a covenant with your eyes that you will not look upon such things is a wonderful model to follow. Don't wait until you're sitting in front of temptation. Make the decision now. That is what Job did. He committed himself to purity and laid out all before God. In verses 5 and 6, I have walked with falsehood. If I have walked with falsehood, or if my foot has hastened to deceit, let me weigh on honest scales, that God may know my integrity. Here Job claims to be an honest man because his friends have claimed that he is full of deceit. He understands God weighs justice on an honest set of scales and invites the Almighty to place his life upon those scales. Job pronounces judgment upon himself if he has been dishonest or defrauded anyone. He even says if he had sinned in any way, that someone else should reap the benefit of his harvest. In verses 9 and 10, Job goes back to the theme that he mentioned in the first part of the chapter. If my heart has been enticed by a woman, or if I have lurked at my neighbor's door, then let my wife grind for another, and let others bow down over her. If Job's heart had been enticed by a woman who was not his wife, then he says that he should be rightfully suffer the consequences. but Job was not seduced by his neighbor's wife. Job's suffering was not the result of such a sin on his part. And Job is so certain about his fidelity that he says that if he's been unfaithful in any of these ways, that he will give his own wife over to be the wife of the person that he defrauded. This is a bold claim to make before God, but Job is desperate. He literally has nothing to lose. He asks God for nothing less than either complete vindication or total judgment. Job then defends his impartiality to the treatment of those who have worked for him. According to Job, in Job 1:3, he had a vast number of servants. Job's enemies have claimed that he used and mistreated people for his own gain. But he defends himself in verses 13 through 15, stating that his treatment of each of his servants, whether male or female, were impartial and just. In verse 15, he makes a powerful statement. He makes a powerful statement that God, who made him in the womb, is the same God who made his servants, and that he would never violate God by violating his servants. He asked God to search him in this and find him wicked in any way. Job then challenges God in verses 21 and 22. If I have raised my hand against the fatherless, when I saw I had help in the gate, then let my arm fall from my shoulder, let my arm be torn from the socket. This is a discussion with his friends. Job had been accused of being insensitive to those of the needs of the poor, but he strongly denies that. He says that he was a benevolent man. He lived his life in the fear of God, knowing that one day he would have to give account for all that he had done with the blessings God had poured out on him. Job is serious about this too. He pulls out all the stops. He gives God permission to tear him limb from limb if his words are lacking in truth. He puts his words and his life on the line before his Creator. Job then talks about his humility. He refutes the idea that he has put his trust in his riches. Job's heart was not centered on his vast wealth. It was centered toward God. He says that he has never been an idolater, worshiped the sun or moon over the Almighty. He has not succumbed to the temptation of greed or worldliness. He was kept his faith in God first and has always sought God and his blessings before anything else. Job never rejoiced or became exultant over the misfortune of his enemies. He never allowed his mouth to sin by pronouncing a curse on them. If anybody needed to be cursed, it would be his three friends, but Job never did. He never refused to feed any stranger who was in need. His door was always open to the traveler. No one was ever turned away. Job did not try to pretend to be someone that he was not. He did not live one way at home and another way in the public eye. He maintained his integrity and lived his life open so that everyone could see. Job concludes by saying in verse 31, 35, "Oh, that I had one to hear me. Here is my mark. Oh, that the Almighty would answer me, that my prosecutor had written a book." In the final effort to get God to answer him, Job longs for someone to verify his case before the Lord. Job signs and presents his defense statement. Then he asks God to either vindicate him or punish him. Job wants to know the charges that had been filed against him in heaven. He now approaches God without hesitation, putting it all on the line. He also returns one last area of his life. that he addresses is his stewardship of his land. He tells God that if he had failed in this area, God should let thistles, weeds, grow instead of wheat and barley. That's verse 40. Job literally challenges God to act. The cycles of speeches between Job and his three friends began in Job 4, are now completed. Job, who had the first word in Job 3, now has said his last word in Job 31. He has looked upon the past and reflected on the present. He has come to the end of himself. He's waiting for justice, and he's ready for the purpose, or ready for the process of recovery to begin. And that's going to be the last time that we hear from Job, except for I think it's 6. It's just it's just 6. It's not 6 words, but it's maybe 6 verses in the last chapter of Job. And I think we've got 4 more. We still have 4 more books. So I think we've still got 4 more weeks before we get to the end. But I hope that you guys can see that Job he's just at the end of his life, or end of his quest to try to figure out what happened and why he's being suffered. And where do you go? I mean, you have to go to the Lord, because nobody else, his 3 friends sure couldn't help him. And he's just putting it out on the line, or all out on the line for the Lord to either help him or put him out of his misery. So I wanted to thank y'all for your kind attention. We will get ready for our invitation song. But if anyone here is not in the family of God, we need to make sure that that's taken care of tonight, because you're not guaranteed the next second. Someone was talking about all those people that was on that plane. There were 7 of them that was hunters. They had been on a hunting trip in Kansas. There were 10 total. 7 of them flew and 3 of them drove. So, I mean, you're just not guaranteed the next second. You're not guaranteed the next minute. The first step's the hardest. After that, the Lord's with you. It's not an easy life, but it's the best life. If anyone here needs to be baptized, you need to come forward, or give us a call if you're online and you haven't. You're not here. We will meet you. We'll wait on you. We'll meet you anytime, day or night. Whatever we need to do to make sure that decision has been made. And we'll ask you to stand, and we will sing Trust and Obey. We're going to sing verses 1 and 5. And if anyone feels the need, please come forward as we sing. Thank you again for your attention. And I hope that Sister Betty, she's worked on me on these 2 books, Joshua and Job. I guess she seen I needed it, but I hope that I'm getting it out well enough to where it makes sense for everyone. I'll read over the announcements just for a second. Like I said, the Night to Shine's Friday night. So anybody 8 o'clock in the morning, if you're available, you can show up at the Y, and I'm sure there's something to do. There's more than something. And then everyone has to be there, try to be there by 3:30, 4 o'clock on Friday. If you can be earlier, because I'm sure there's some little things we need to finish up. But Rick Mathena will be here on the 23rd doing his Christian Acres presentation for Sunday school, and then he'll be bringing us a message. Sister Laura's ladies Bible study will start back on March the 1st at 10 a.m. here at the church. Please let her know if you want a book. And then the Bible Bowl competition will start on March the 8th also. And don't forget about the Super Bowl carrying. If you have any canned goods or anything, it goes to a very, very, very good organization that takes care of a lot of people. Brother Josh, will you close this out, please?